So I have a very interesting take on this. So who else finds it very funny, almost hilarious? All these top crypto exchanges, I won't name any names, but you guys know which ones they are, have been telling us about how they have compliance, they have to go through and review all these projects for listing, blah blah blah. But when Uniswap launches, just like that, it gets listed. I mean, I mean, what? I mean, I don't know about you, but Uniswap launched in the US around 10 p.m. at night, and within like 4 to 6 hours, basically in the middle of night, it was getting listed on some American exchanges. I mean, so I don't think their compliance team is up at night. I mean, right? So looks like they threw compliance out the window to list this token. Now it is understandable because this is, as mentioned before, one of the best projects out there, right? So I mean, obviously its reputation precedes itself. But I still find it hilarious that almost every single crypto exchange, even the Asian ones, every crypto exchange was listing this token almost with no due diligence. Like, right? So either they were in on it, maybe Uniswap spoke with exchanges ahead of time in terms of listing. I mean, that could have been a possibility. So maybe they were already in the know and they just pretty much told them turn on the switch and list. Maybe that's what happened, right? Maybe it's something we're not privy to. But let's say that's not the case. Let's say they just launched a token and all these exchanges were just FOMOing to list to get all these traders on board. Because now it kind of puts them in a tough predicament because when other projects want to list, they'll say, but I mean, you listed these other projects just like that with barely any due diligence, right? So why are you telling us this? But I found that pretty interesting, and I think centralized exchanges are shaking in their boots. I mean, because what happened with DeFi in general? Because we're really going through a changing of the guard. Because now centralized exchanges, we basically have three tiers. We have the top tier, tier one. So let's say Binance, Coinbase, the Krakens of the world, maybe Bitstamp. Then you have tier two. Tier two, I would say probably like the Huobi, the OKX, maybe KuCoin, BitMax. Then you have the tier three. Tier three are those unknown exchanges nobody has really used, right? So the tier three exchanges are done for because the only reason people were going to those exchanges was because tier one and tier two would not list their tokens. But if tokens now, speaking of ERC20 tokens, Ethereum-based tokens, if they can just automatically list on a DEX, Uniswap, SushiSwap, with liquidity, and the community can earn rewards for providing liquidity as an incentive, and we have yield farming, they don't need these centralized exchanges anymore. The tier three, like RIP, rest in peace. You know, it's definitely going to be. I mean, this is the part where we cue that African funeral meme to all these tier three exchanges because the only way they'll stay in business now is by listing non-ERC20 tokens that the tier two and tier one exchanges don't want to list. Because first of all, they barely have liquidity. And if they do, it's wash trading, it's fake volume. Now people, if you have an ERC20 token, you just go to Uniswap or 1inch Exchange, these DEX aggregators, and you trade there, right? And now even they, for some tokens, don't have liquidity as well. But I mean, I'm kind of projecting outward. Imagine 1 year from now, 5 years from now, how far can this go, right? As DeFi gets bigger and bigger, all these tier three exchanges are done for. Then we go to tier two. Tier two exchanges are just rushing to list all these DeFi tokens, which are all ERC20 tokens, just to keep up. So they have to just list very quickly. And the only moat they have at the moment that could possibly keep them in business is they have more trading volume than DEXs, than Uniswap for the long tail of tokens, right? So when I speak of Huobi, OKX, KuCoin, BitMax, those exchanges typically have more trading volume, right? So for example, if you want to go to a new token, and early on there would be liquidity on a DEX, but after some time, if the FOMO dies down, it might subside. while on those exchanges, typically they might have their own market making, or they might require products that are listed on there to have market making, right? But the only exchanges that I think have a strong moat to survive are the tier 1 exchanges. And their moat is essentially just being a fiat on-ramp. You can basically send your money there, your dollars, your cash, your dollars, your euros, your yen, your sterling pound. You send it there. That's how you onboard into crypto. And then you go to DeFi, right? But imagine if DeFi were to get a fiat on-ramp. What would that do to crypto? What would that do to all these centralized exchanges? Honestly, I think that's their worst nightmare, right? If somehow, some way, Uniswap were to add a fiat on-ramp, I mean, why would you need these other exchanges for, right? I mean, I'm not sure if there's anybody building that, whether there's a decentralized fiat on-ramp. It's probably going to be tough because of regulations. But I mean, because if fiat on-ramps were added to DeFi, that would be a game changer. Now, obviously, that might entice regulators to come in and basically cancel the entire DeFi party. But I mean, I think, yeah, so it's kind of a tough case. But anyway, that's kind of where I'm thinking, right? But I think the top tier 1 exchanges are the ones who have a moat, and that's being fiat on-ramps. But other than that, I'm very bullish on DeFi, very bullish on Uniswap, all these DEXs. I think it's the way to go. It's the future. I mean, to a point now, I don't really use centralized exchanges. And because it's even come to a point where if the token is not an ERC20 token, I can trade on a DEX. I don't want it. I mean, that's probably the reason why I haven't bought Polkadot yet. I mean, because it's a hassle having to go to an exchange to transfer my money. Essentially, I'm just lazy, right? Because Uniswap and MetaMask has made things so simple that, I mean, it's the way to go. I mean, if anything, I think the big game changer that takes DeFi to the moon and beyond are synthetic tokens. Because if, let's say, somebody could just buy an ERC20 synthetic for Polkadot without having to actually hold Polkadot. Because then you're basically getting the upside without having to go to a centralized exchange. So I'm very, very intrigued by these synthetic platforms for DeFi. So our team has been looking into synthetics, into UMA. I've mentioned that a lot. That did a 16x. Congrats to anybody who got in. But we've also been looking into some option platforms as well, right? So Open as well. And we also looked into Hedget and Hedgic, I believe. Those are some option platforms as well. But in general, I think derivatives could be the big play, right? Because nobody wants to own all these different assets or have all these different crypto wallets. Because at least to me right now, the perfect dream case for DeFi and crypto, all these different crypto assets get tokenized as synthetics, as ERC20 tokens, and we can trade all of them in a decentralized fashion on a DEX. Uniswap, SushiSwap, whatever, and everything else gets built on top of that, and we basically have composability. I think that's a real game changer. That's how crypto goes mainstream, right? All this different silos, different blockchains. Nobody wants that. People just want everything universal. And that's kind of my take. I know I've been kind of rambling, but yeah, let me know what you think. Do you think all these centralized exchanges will survive? Will it be just tier 1, tier 2, tier 3? What do you think of Uniswap and DEXs? Do you think they'll replace everything? They'll be this flippening where they surpass the top exchanges like Coinbase and Binance? Tell me what you think down in the comments below.